Where do I get my ideas from?
Ideas can come from anywhere. It could be from something that's happened to me, or it could be a dream, or it could be inspired by another book that I've read.
Everywhere. So it could be books, films, just conversations with my kids.
I get my ideas from all kinds of places. It might be from something a friend says, it might be something I hear on the radio.
My cat, being on the ferry, just everywhere. I think if you're open to ideas, they can just come at any time.
I also welcome thousands of stupid ideas.
It might be from a place I explore, or it could be from something really simple, like the thought that it could be really interesting to do a wordless book with a fixed view from one window and the whole story taking place within the view.
So if you look through my journals, there's 1,000 stupid ideas to every one good idea.
But usually ideas come out of nowhere when I'm least expecting them. They just pop into my head. That's why I always have a notepad with me, so I can jot them down and capture them onto paper, because ideas are so sort of elusive and ephemeral. They just evaporate if you don't capture them. So I've always grabbed those ideas and put them straight into my notepad.
They're not necessarily like light bulb moments, but more things that, just speak to me in the sort of day-to-day hustle and bustle, even in the quiet moments, but yeah.
When it comes to illustrating for other people, often authors will actually leave you illustration notes, and the first thing I do is actually delete those. I don't want to see them because it might influence my ideas for how the illustrations can look.
So I think having a space where you can grow ideas is really important, where you can brew things, and that's probably me. So I make spaces for play.
So I've always wanted to become an illustrator. Ever since I can remember, from a young age, I've always enjoyed drawing.
It's something I always loved doing, that I'd often be found in a corner making something.
In a previous life, or in my earlier career, I was actually an illustrator and an art director in the advertising business. And then I had children, and I was sort of obviously reading children's books to them, and I thought, oh, maybe I should have a go at this, and I've got maybe stories to tell.
I made up stories, and I did lots of drawing and painting and cutting out.
I remember my librarian, Mrs. Carl, holding up the picture books of the year out the front of the library, and sitting there on the floor of the library looking up at those books. I just realised that I could do that. I could write, I could draw, just like those authors and illustrators, and I thought that's the perfect job for me, because those are the things that I love doing, and I love books.
And from then on, really, my family became my main inspiration for the first 10 years or more of me doing that.
Look, I have had a hearing loss since I was 12. I've been talking about this a lot lately, and 12 would be when it was diagnosed, but it probably started heaps earlier. I shut down talking. I did talk, but I didn't initiate conversation with anyone apart from my own family. And between everyone at the school, people thought I had a mental disability or learning issues. So I was taken off to a psychiatrist and things like that. And I think drawing and writing for me became it was just a way of showing people that I had stuff going on in my head. So yeah, I think it's just a fierce need to communicate, and also communicate in a beautiful way.
I think I started writing and illustrating, that I remember, when I was about 6.
In my very last year at college, in the last term of the final year, we were told that we could spend that term doing whatever we like. We could design our own project. And so I chose to write, design and illustrate a children's picture book, which was later published as Grandfather. And I really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I've always made little books as a child, yeah, always drawn. My dad used to have a photo of me, you know, when my dad was alive, of me like as a baby with a stick in my hand, and he said I was always making marks.
So drawing's a skill like anything, and the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. But I have always loved to draw.
So I've only illustrated one book, and it's this book, Grandma's Treasured Shoes. That was back in, so I was engaged in the works back in 2017, and it was published in 2019.
1992, Ugliest Dog came out, and that was the first book that I'd written.
My favourite picture book growing up.
Favourite picture book growing up?
Oh, my favourite picture book, that's a hard question to answer because there's so many.
My favourite picture book was this crazy 70s book called The Quangle Wangle's Hat. It was mad, yeah. So that was kind of my favourite book as a kid.
I liked Rupert the Bear because I didn't necessarily have to read, in that the story was told very much in the pictures, and I loved that world that you could escape into.
My favourite, I think of all time, would be Samsara Dog by Helen Manos and illustrated by Julie Vivas, who I met in person. Yeah, it's a beautiful book, and it's just a book about the love that we have for our furry-legged friends.
I love Pokey Little Puppy. I always wanted him to get back and have his food. But yeah, my dad read to me pretty well every night. Told me stories, and so there was, but we had a house full of books.
When I was a child, we didn't really have picture books. But one book really, in particular, really stands out for me. The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgkin Burnett.
There was one book in particular that I absolutely loved, and that was Revolting Rhymes by Roald Dahl and Quentin Blake. And I loved that book so much. I actually memorized it. That book is just, every page is a joy, exploding with laughter, and I just loved Revolting Rhymes. It's fantastic. I can recite it for you now if you'd like. My advice to young authors and illustrators is always just to make books. There's nothing stopping you. You just need a piece of paper and a pencil and you can start making books.
Just to keep working, take every opportunity, enter every competition. And if you can't work on someone else's books, definitely work on your own.
Basically just do it, okay? Don't worry about whether it's good or not. You'll probably end up rubbing out those first marks anyway.
So you're really doing it for love and not for money. I think most people you meet in the book industry sort of have that motive too. I think there's a real, ultimately you remind yourself that everything's for children.
Write and create things that they feel passionately about.
I think that it's really important that we nurture our imaginations.
Some of that passion somehow gets transported into the creation.
Draw well, draw bad, just keep doing it and do it because you enjoy it, yeah.
There are many things, though, I can't say in my images that are important to say. So words and images, they grow and evolve together.
So in a sense, I'm almost bilingual. So I speak in words and I speak in images. Sometimes it's easier for me to tell the story with pictures. Sometimes it's easier for me to tell the story in words. And it happens at the same time.
My stories come words and images together in my head and then on the paper, because I find if you say something, you don't necessarily need to show it.
Both, so muddling mess, really. Yeah, I guess if words are coming, I'm writing words, and often words inspire pictures, and sometimes pictures I'm drawing inspire words.
think when you change lines in an illustration to be curvy, not only does it kind of draw you into the picture and it makes you feel like you're within it a bit more. It's kind of encompassing you a little bit more.
When I'm drawing the faces of my characters, I have to show what they're feeling via their expression. The most straightforward way to show someone's feelings is via their eyebrows. Everybody thinks it's via their mouth, but it's actually the eyebrows. So if I'm going to make a character look mean and scary, I have their eyebrows pointing down like this, and it suddenly makes them look mean and intimidating.
What I discovered is that when I work with my left hand, it's much more emotional, it's much more guttural. When I work with my right hand, it's about realism, it's about dexterity, okay, and it's about detail.
So yeah, people have a look at Macca and say he's got white fleece, so it mustn't take you very long to draw. But if you have a look really, really closely, if you look up close, you'll see, I think I use about 11 or 12 different colors in his fleece. So you'll see there's pinks, there's purples, there's grays, there's browns, there's siennas, there's ochre, there's black, and there's all these different colors in there to add that depth to his fleece so that he looks soft and cuddly, so you feel like you want to give him a hug when you see him.
I sort of ignore the rules and I splash stuff around, and I get really excited about just blobbing a bit of paint, and I don't know what marks it's going to make or how far it's going to run or what it's going to do. I love the wetness of it. It just, you know, I don't know. It's got like a spiritual energy, I guess, in so many ways. I've played in the digital world with watercolours. I've had heaps of fun. And it's really like magical coloured pencils, what watercolour does in the digital world, but it's still not the same as painting with real watercolour.
I can spend years on a book. Like the book I'm just finishing now will have been 5 years of work, which you probably think is ridiculous. Sometimes I set myself really difficult challenges, like in Circle, there are lots of clouds. And I didn't want to use cotton wool, but I had to find ways of creating clouds that worked. There's lots of water, and water catches the light, and that's really tricky to show in collage. And I wanted you to be able to see through the water in places and what might be underneath it. And I wanted to show the birds flying and get the texture of their wings and their feathers. And so every little element in my collages I've had to think about and work out what I can use to get the feeling, to get the texture of that particular thing.
Sometimes it can be getting that first idea, sometimes you struggle with it, and then sometimes it's actually the technical side.
There's always the middle part of the book where you think it's ugly and terrible. That's a speed hump.
Finding the right words. I have the ideas, I know what I want to say, but finding the right words.
I think the hardest thing, which people don't often think about, is deadlines. You might do something that you're really not that happy with and you think, well, I can't redo it now, so I'm going to have to live with it.
Best thing about my job. Oh.
So I get to draw, I get to write, and I get to make books. And I joke about it, but I get paid to colour in. Can you believe that? Don't you wish you got paid to colour in? I really think I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
For me, it's definitely the variety, because I think I fear boredom more than anything else.
If I can like create something that I enjoy, that was from my heart, like that's the best thing that I could ask for.
It's creating a world, and it's only recently that I realised too that doing children's books, you become part of somebody's nostalgia itself, and that's amazing. I mean, I get quite a kick out of that idea that you become part of a child's memory and part of a nostalgia.
Best thing, yeah, was really being a dad, I guess, and being there the whole time.
The thing I feel most fortunate about is that my only limit is my imagination. I've got incredible freedom in my work.